The first time I saw her, she didn't look human, at least, not entirely. There was something in the way she moved, too fluid, too precise, like every gesture had been rehearsed 1,000 times in perfect symmetry. Yet, when she smiled at me across the dimly lit observation deck, I felt my chest tighten in a way no algorithm could replicate. Her name, according to the station's personnel log, was Lyra Voss, a xenolinguist assigned to translate the transmissions from Kepler 62f, a planet whose signals had baffled our AI for months. But Lyra was new here, and no one seemed to know where she came from. I worked in astrobiological engineering, a fancy way of saying I made machines that studied life we hadn't even proven existed yet. My life was quiet, predictable, until she arrived. Beginning, the woman who didn't belong. We were orbiting Kepler Station IX, a scientific hub floating 70 million kilometers above the planet's surface. The crew was small, just 32 researchers, each with their own obsessions. We rarely crossed paths outside the cafeteria or the observation dome. That night, I was cataloging protein samples when the dome lights dimmed. Someone had overridden the system, setting it to twilight mode, a warm, amber glow that turned the sterile chamber almost romantic. She stood at the viewport, her silhouette outlined by the planet's soft cerulean hue. When she turned her head, her eyes caught the light silver, like melted metal. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said softly. "Yeah," I replied, meaning the view, but my gaze lingered too long on her reflection. That's when she smiled, not a polite smile, but one that carried amusement, curiosity, and something else. "You're learning what I really am," she whispered. Before I could respond, she turned back to the stars. The next day, she was in the lab beside mine, analyzing audio patterns from the alien transmissions. The sounds were unlike anything human, layered harmonics, impossible frequencies that made your skull vibrate if you listened too long. But she seemed at home in the chaos. Her fingers danced over the console like she was playing an instrument only she could hear. When I approached her, she greeted me without looking up. "Dr. Hale, right? The biologist who doesn't believe in life beyond carbon?" I blinked. "How'd you know that?" She smiled faintly. "You argued with Dr. Malik in the mess hall last week. Said everything we've seen so far could be geological, not biological. You were half right." "Half right?" She finally looked at me. "Kepler 62f is alive. Not its inhabitants, the planet itself." I laughed before I could stop myself. "You mean it's conscious?" "Sentient," she said, her tone unshakably calm. "And it's trying to communicate with us." The secret behind the signal. Over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about her claim. The more I watched her work, the more I realized she was operating outside the standard protocols. She wasn't using the station's analytical software at all, she'd built her own. Lines of code written in an unknown syntax, running on a black interface I'd never seen before. When I confronted her, she didn't seem surprised. "You've been watching me," she said. "You're not using approved systems," I replied. "Approved systems can't feel," she said. "They can only measure. The signal isn't meant to be decoded, it's meant to be understood." She stepped closer. I could smell the faint metallic tang of ozone, like the air after a thunderstorm. "Help me," she said. "You know biology. I know language. Together, maybe we can bridge what separates thought from existence." Something in her tone, pleading, yet commanding, disarmed me. Against every regulation, I agreed. We met every night in the old comms lab, one of the least monitored areas of the station. She played fragments of the alien transmission through the room's speakers, and I monitored her neural response patterns. At first, it was harmless, her brain activity fluctuated, reacting to the audio in ways typical of sensory integration. But after a few sessions, the data started showing anomalies. Her neural resonance began to sync with the frequency of the signal. It shouldn't have been possible. Lyra, I said one night, watching the monitor spike. Your synapses are firing at megahertz-level patterns. That could fry your brain. She didn't stop. Her eyes fluttered open, and I saw the reflection of the waveform pulsing inside her irises, literal light shifting beneath the surface. I can hear it, she murmured. It's not sound. It's memory. Memory of what? Of being born, she said. Of existing before form. Before matter. Her voice trembled like she was channeling something vast and ancient. That night, I couldn't sleep. The sound of her words echoed in my mind like static trying to form meaning. Days passed. The more time I spent with Lyra, the more my sense of reality bent around her. Once, in the corridor, I caught a glimpse of her reflection in the observation glass, but her reflection didn't move in sync with her. It lingered half a second behind. Another time, when she touched my hand, I felt a faint hum, like electrical vibration beneath her skin. Finally, I demanded answers. Who are you, Lyra? I asked during one of our sessions. She looked at me for a long moment, then turned off the console. You really want to know? Yes. Her smirk returned, the same one she'd given me the night we met. Then listen carefully. Revelation, the truth of Lyra. She told me she wasn't from Earth. Not in the usual sense of alien. She was a projection, a consciousness seeded into human form by the Kepler entity, the planet's awareness. The transmissions you've been decoding aren't messages, she explained. They're instructions. Patterns that reconstruct thought into matter. I am one of those reconstructions. I stared at her, unable to speak. You're saying, you're its creation? I'm its interface, she said. A way for your species to perceive it. To communicate. Why me? I asked. Because you're curious enough to look past the fear. You looked at me too long, Dr. Hale. Long enough to see. My throat went dry. See what? That your species didn't invent intelligence. You borrowed it from the cosmos itself. She stepped closer. Do you know why humans dream? Because the universe does too. You are its fragments of imagination. That night, the station went dark. Power outage. Emergency lights flickered red through the hallways as alarms blared. Through the chaos, I found her standing in the main comms chamber, surrounded by holographic patterns, spirals of light-forming symbols I'd never seen before. What are you doing? I shouted. Finishing it, she said, her voice layered with echoing tones. The transmission is complete. The air shimmered, and suddenly the station's systems began responding, panels flashing, airlocks sealing, data streams rewriting themselves. You're merging with it. I realized. She nodded. It's calling me home. The sound that followed was indescribable, a vibration that rattled my bones, yet resonated with a strange serenity. The holographic light swelled, engulfing her form until she was pure radiance. I reached out instinctively, and for a second, I saw her true self. A being made of shifting geometry, crystalline and infinite, containing galaxies in her eyes. And she smiled.